14,000 subscribers and 85,000 Twitter followers. That's amazing.
I had to learn what copywriting was. Writing for the internet is so different than writing for work. When you're trying to get attention on the internet, you have to figure out a way to take your information, make it so easily, effortlessly digestible. It has to be interesting enough to keep them hooked, and then smart enough that they read it at the end and go, wow, Colin's a smart guy. Like, I want to work with him.
All right, welcome to the Business Blitz podcast. We're joined today by Brian O'Connor. Brian, can you give us a quick background on yourself?
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. So, Colin, I was a management consultant. I spent 6 years doing corporate strategy, just think boardrooms, leather briefcase, all that typical type stuff. And I wanted to make everything we're doing in the boardrooms accessible to everyone. So started writing some of the problems that we were seeing and the solutions on Twitter, and it just blew up. So I took the frameworks that to us felt like common knowledge, but it's usually held behind closed doors. So wrote on Twitter, grew to 85,000 followers. My newsletter is now 14,000. And trying to share all the tips that I'm getting with the corporates, with the small businesses.
That's amazing. I want to talk a little bit about how long it took you to get to 14,000 subscribers and 85,000 Twitter followers. That's amazing. How long did it take you to get there?
So to be clear, 85,000 across both LinkedIn and Twitter, right? So it's roughly like 40K Twitter, 40K LinkedIn split. Man, at first it was really hard. It was very, very hard because I just didn't know how to write for the internet. Right, writing for the internet is so different than writing for work, right, or writing for pretty much anywhere else. Because if you think about the difference, is like if I was texting you or emailing you, you know who I am, you want to talk to me, you've asked me for something specific. There's some reason that I'm sending you this information. When you're trying to get attention on the internet, you're just talking to strangers who don't know who you are, right? And they could either watch your thing or go to a friend's thing, or they can watch cat videos on TikTok. And so like you have to figure out a way to take your information, make it so easily, effortlessly digestible that it takes no effort, or otherwise they put in too much and they leave. It has to be interesting enough to keep them hooked throughout, and then smart enough that they read it at the end and go, wow, Colin's a smart guy. Like, I want to work with him. And so that blend of the three took me a year to crack. 8 months to crack, something like that. But it was 8 months of like, I didn't have weekends for a year, just like studying copywriting. Dude, I thought copywriting was a legal term. So I had to learn what copywriting was. I had to learn what storytelling was. I thought I could tell stories at parties and people laugh. I thought I could tell stories. That's not true, right? It's just so different to write for the internet and figure out like what gets people to hook in and trust you and buy your things than to write for email or work or anything else. So it's a long way to say that it probably took me about 8 months to crack, like really crack, how to write on social, but 8 months of like, man, every weekend, before work, after work, etc.
Yeah. So definitely a different style of writing is required when building a following.
Very different.
Media, 100%. I do know, like, so it took you about 8 months to get that style or to get that following?
I mean, it's never stopped, right? So the number I'm giving you now is number as of today. So it's always been growing. But the bulk of my growth happened. So I'd say I really started to take off probably 4 or 5 months in, I'd say. And then had some big spikes throughout the course of that year. And then it slowed when Twitter transitioned to X, I'd say.
Gotcha. Okay. Those are the heydays. So I'm hearing. I joined after, but I started posting.
Yeah, there was a man. Okay, LinkedIn. I got my 20,000 followers in 3 weeks.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It was insane. Yes, because what happened was, so at the time I was still at Deloitte, and I was afraid to make it too obvious that I was interested in leaving eventually, right? And so I was writing on Twitter. And so I had this huge backlog of just battle-tested things. I knew my top posts, right? And so at this point, I had, 20 Twitter threads that are just copy-pastable LinkedIn, sorted by how popular they were. And I was just waiting until I put in my notice. As soon as the day I put in my notice, I also dropped my first Twitter thread on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it ripped. And so it
awesome.
was hit after hit after hit because I already had them battle tested.
That's amazing. Yeah. That fast growth is remarkable. Really, really awesome. I want to talk a
Yeah,
little bit about actually, let's transition a little bit. I want to talk about how you work nomadically. So you work fully remote. You are in Buenos Aires right now, Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. Let's talk a little bit about that.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm in. So I've been living nomadically now 2 years. So all last year was Asia. So I was building my business from Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, etc., which is incredible. So I've been trying all around the world, and this blew my mind. The highest concentration of just like really, really ambitious go-getter entrepreneurs was in Bali. To
Interesting.
date, it's been crazy. It just blows my mind. I spent, oh yeah, all last year bouncing around Asia and all this year Latin America. Two reasons for LatAm. One is I know I look like this super white Irish dude from Boston, but my full name is Brian Fernando O'Connor. I actually grew up partly in Ecuador, partly in Boston. So my mom's Ecuadorian, and I want to get to know my Latin roots, right? So that's part of it. The other part is I've been building a talent agency in Latin America. And so I'm traveling around to all the different hubs to actually meet talent in person and meet uh, like distribution partners. But I mean like hubs of talent that we can go to find a ton of people at once. And yeah, just bounce around, get to know different cultures, so we can offer the best talent to our clients.
Really, really impressive. Very interesting as well. My question is, you said Bali has the most go-getter entrepreneurs quantity wise, but what is your favorite place that you've been?
Ooh, good question. So Chiang Mai, Thailand has my heart, I would say. There's a few pubs. I would say Medellin, Colombia, Chiang Mai, Thailand, and Canggu, Bali. Yeah, those are my three. And all because of this a blend of just the people, the communities, right? So like in Bali is a bunch of these hubs, but Canggu is packed. A lot of people don't like it because of how packed it is. I like it because that energy brings a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I met some of my best friends all in Canggu, right? And so I think those areas have the best blend of just like community who can support you and help you grow in what you're doing. Ton of restaurants, so you can always like eat out at a different place every night. Ton of coffee shops you can work from all the time. Super walkable, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, love that.
That's awesome. I got to get out there.
Yes, yes, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a good. I love nomading. It's been a complete game changer.
Yeah, being able to work remote is just awesome. Super freeing for sure. I want to talk a little bit now about your consulting experience, and you probably learned a ton of frameworks, ton of systems at Deloitte, and how are those are helping you now when in your entrepreneurial journey. You have two different businesses you run. So let's talk about some systems. Like maybe what's the best system or most useful framework that you use from consulting now in entrepreneurship?
Ooh, that's a hard one. The hard one for two reasons. Well, let me break it down. So I did kind of two big things in consulting. One was what we'll call growth strategy or corporate strategy, competitive strategy too. That's basically like what market should you enter? How do you enter in a way that creates a competitive advantage so you can price higher and all that kind and not lose to competitors? Like what customers do you target? How do you target them? That's kind of the growth strategy side. And so that's helped me kind of think through which businesses should I enter and which should I say no to? Because like the biggest thing about entrepreneurship that there's a bunch of things surprise me about entrepreneurship, but one of them is the number of opportunities you get a day, right? And probably the best skill you can have as an entrepreneur is the ability to say no.
Yeah.
And just to wait for the right swing. So that's one. That's from the growth strategy side of the fence. I also did a lot of kind of what we call operating model type work. And so what that means is like we'll go into a business that's just not run well. Right. To give you an example, we worked for this hedge fund that they started in Excel. They tracked everything in Excel, and then the fund blew up. Right. So this $1 billion fund is running out of Excel. And so these like processes that used to take them a few hours now took them a few weeks, right?
Okay.
And so we went in there and basically said, where's the bottlenecks in the business, right? How do we fix those bottlenecks? But then the one thing that I think a lot of people don't think about that is very important is how do we prioritize the decisions? Because there's a lot of bottlenecks you could fix, but one is that the most burning fire you can do because order of events really matters. And then two, is it worth fixing at all? Like it might be that the fix takes 6 months, but the actual manual stuff only like costs you, I don't know, an extra few weeks, right? And so part of it is figuring out like what's the bottleneck in the business to run it effectively? How do you standardize and or productize so that like things are repeatable and you can pull yourself out of the business and work on it, not in it? And then of that long list of things you can do, which you know is like forever long, which ones are the ones that move the needle the most and are actually worth fixing?
Damn. That's impressive and also sounds complicated. Like from like a startup perspective, you're definitely not going to be that in deep, but yes, definitely in a corporate environment, especially at a hedge fund, that definitely seems super like crucial, absolutely crucial. And maybe you kind of step back a little bit and do that in a more minor scale at a smaller business. What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the biggest difference between corporate and small business is complexity, right? Like when we're doing this for like 4 business lines in 10 countries and like across a ton of products. And so like every decision you make has a massive ripple effect. And so you spend way more time up front, more time thinking than doing, right? Sure, you do doing, but like that your one decision ripples across so many businesses and so many countries and so many downstream effects of it and blah blah blah. Super complex. But on the other side of entrepreneurship, your choices have some ripple effect, but not as much. And so it's almost like there's decisions you can make that are so I have a one framework. Let's talk about framework is how reversible is the decision? Is it reversible or irreversible? And how valuable is the decision? Is it high impact or low impact? Right? As you're making these decisions, there's way more decisions that aren't as big of a deal and that don't have as big of a ripple effect in entrepreneurship. And so just do it. Right? Just
Yeah.
hit the wall, get your teeth bashed in a little bit, fix it, and go. But in the case that it's like a big decision that takes a ton of your time or takes a ton of your attention, it's worth taking a second to think about. And so if you have these like decision frameworks that you can fire through quicker than everyone else and you can make better decisions better than everyone else, you have a much better business at the end of the day.
Cool. Thanks for the breakdown on that. I want to transition again towards back to LinkedIn. So you have around 40-ish thousand followers on LinkedIn, and I'm assuming you're able to drive a lot of leads for both of your different businesses, probably organically from LinkedIn. So can you talk a little bit about your funnel there?
Yeah, so I'll talk about my last funnel. We're testing new funnels, and I'd say every funnel we test takes about 3 months to crack. For my funnel for my consulting business, let's say, it's definitely lumpy to that extent, where I have a bunch of posts where it's 0, 0, 0, 0, and then all of a sudden I have one post that really hits, takes off, and I get 7 calls booked, right? So when I was focusing on, so in the last iteration, when I was focusing on the consulting business, I usually got an average, I'd say 7 calls booked a week, just from my LinkedIn content. And so the way that I finally cracked it was I would use my content to drive a ton of traffic to my profile, right? On the profile, people click, they go to my lead magnet or my landing page. And so for a while I said like, hey, get a free discovery call. Uh, like let's hop on the phone and let's talk about your business problems. Let's talk about your systems. Let's fix them.
Okay.
And I didn't really get that many calls. And then I just made a simple switch that just kind of changed everything and started getting traction. And it was just the angle of the offer. I went from like get a discovery call, hop on the phone with me, let's chat, to get a free marketing audit. It's the same thing. We're in
Interesting.
both cases, I'm just talking about the challenges your business has and how we can solve it. The only difference is I'm framing one as an audit
Huh.
for free, where I review your marketing, and the other one I'm framing as a discovery call, where I hop on the phone to review your marketing.
Yeah.
Um,
I might have to steal this. This is absolute
Steal it.
genius.
I love it. And it clicked, man. So there was 2 things that clicked. So that was one, that angle. And then the other angle that really worked was before I was like, hey, I'm a strategy consultant. Let me do your strategy. And like, sounds good as we're talking about it, but when the rubber meets the road and you start putting that offer in the market, nobody wants to buy strategy. And so when I went from like a marketing strategy consultant to, I really went to like growth strategy was my thing. When I went from growth strategy advising to I will tactically look at your marketing and choose your channels and help you build marketing systems, that clicked too.
Okay.
So what I've learned is two things. One is how you frame your offer is mission critical, right? Like I iterated on that landing page 15 times. And it was the fit like I think it was like 0, 0, 0, 0 until 15, and then the 15th one was like 7 calls a week.
Nice.
Um, so iterate like crazy. One, and then two is like the more tactical like you can be, the more it sells. And so where I went wrong was I led with strategy. I said, "Hey, I'll do your strategy." But what I found is that tactics get me in the door. Strategy allows me to charge higher rates and
Okay.
keeps me there longer.
I'm kind of blown away right now. This is just absolute gold. Like absolute gold. Yeah,
Good man.
really, really. I can't wait to implement some of this stuff in my business for sure. My businesses. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Some of the listeners might be in a corporate job right now and they might be
Yeah,
wanting to make the switch into entrepreneurship. You've done that successfully. Let's talk a
yeah.
little bit about that. Maybe we can boil it down into like one main thing that helps you make that transition or one main tip and make it as simple as possible.
Okay, I got one. Um, so if you're like me, you're sitting in a cubicle, kind of doing something cool for business, right? Something you, like that the business needs. The only difference between your 9 to 5, your corporate job, and doing it on your own is lead gen. That's it. Like if your the company hired you, they hired you because there's a need. And if you can take that same need and apply it to another business, as long as you crack the lead gen side, the ability to acquire clients, then you can do the same thing on your own. So understanding marketing is mission critical, right? If you can like that will make or break your business. But if you can learn digital marketing or any way to acquire customers, and then just take the same thing you do today and figure out how to frame it in a way that's really valuable to businesses on the outside of your company. Do that on the side until your income is close to or matches your current income, and then you can switch and go do it full time.
So lead gen, that's the big thing. I like to call that distribution. Basically having an audience that you can drive toward, that you can turn into leads and then drive towards your offering. That's how I view one of the main benefits of social media. I say that all the time, especially on this podcast. Would you say that that's
Yeah,
pretty similar to what you're saying?
absolutely. I mean, I think social media is one of many ways to get customers, but the one benefit of it, if you're sitting in I'm gonna get sued for saying this, if you're sitting in a cubicle, it just kind of looks like you're being a smart person on the internet, even though it gets you customers. So you can post your ideas and share how smart you are, and um, so that a lot of people start seeing that you have the ability to solve their problems. um like no your employer will love that. Like you're just seen as you're making their brand better. You're seen as like a smart
Yeah.
person, and their business has a lot of smart people. But behind closed doors, that's the people start to see you as valuable, and they start to call you, DM you, and ask for offers. And so kind of a smooth way to get clients that way. So
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
Yeah, one more thing. One thing that I didn't expect at all about creating content is the ancillary benefits, the side benefits. So like you think, okay, if I make a bunch of content, I'll get customers, right? That's great. But the benefit of it is huge. I mean, think about this conversation I'm having with you right now, Colin, right? Like we met through socials, right? You were like, how the hell, like, how do I do, I don't know, X, Y thing, Z thing. I call you, we start jamming, and we're doing it just because we met in socials. And so your ability to meet peers is incredible. Your ability to get on the phone with people you shouldn't normally have access to is incredible, right? So just the ability to network through socials, even if you didn't get customers, is just so worth doing. It's worth doing anyway.
Yeah. 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Networking, number one, biggest thing. Distribution, second biggest thing. And they're both critical. And that's why every
Huge.
founder should have a personal brand.
Huge. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Okay, we're going to wrap up today. Thanks, Brian, for hopping on the show. I want you to tell the listeners where we can hear more from you and learn more from you if we want more. Where are some links, some websites, newsletters? Where would that be?
Absolutely. So if you want the really nerdy in the weeds tactical, how the heck do I make this business work? I have a newsletter called Outlier Growth at outliergrowth.com, where every week I share systems, business challenges, and give you tools to solve your business problems. Otherwise, I'm Brian F. O'Connor on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Brian. Really, really appreciate it. This was an awesome episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great chatting, Colin.
Thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, click subscribe below for more business content just like this.